Hello, welcome to the THC Show. I'm your host, Neil Magnuson. This is a show where we talk about truth, hope, and change. And believe me, if you know the truths that are going on in the world today, you're going to be needing some hope and some way to change things. We try to help you with all that here. On the show today, we're going to have 8 out of 10 Glenn from CannaMatch.ca join us for the 420 session. As always, we'll have Casey McFarlane come back for a return visit. And we're going to have Doug Sikora from the Silly Sikoras come and tell us a little bit about what's been going on with them. So today on the show, I wanted to talk a little bit about the nature of life on planet Earth. The nature of life on planet Earth is all about the strong surviving. It's always been that way. The strong will take what they need from the weak, and the weak don't make it, and that's just the way it's been. So we are the product of strong survivors over a long period of time. Those that were nice didn't make it. Nice doesn't cut it in the world. You've got to be willing to go against basic human ethics when push comes to shove, or you're the one that's going to be pushed and shoved out of the way, and the other ones are going to survive. And that's just the way it's been for a very, very long time throughout life on this planet. Now, when it comes to humans, it's not much different. The bullies have taken what they want from the weak, and those that can somehow put themselves in positions of power, influence, and leadership, many times, are people that have money and influence and other ways that they can bully people, and that's exactly what they do. And throughout history, many, many times, there has been a purging of those people that were threats to the ruling regimes. The artists, the intellectuals, the activists, for sure, if there ever was such a thing back in the day. But yeah, there's been a purging of anybody that's a threat to the ruling regimes over and over and over again. And we're here because we're the ancestors of people, or we're the product of our ancestors who were willing to do horrible things to survive all the different times in the history of humanity when things have gone really, really badly. A lack of ethics has resulted in a lot of different problems in our world. I mean, we even had slavery, and in fact, even today, there's slavery going on. Slavery, if you can imagine. There's been millions and millions of people murdered because of religious beliefs and religious reasons that their God is better than their God, or whatever it is. Or in the case of the Christian God who, decided to annihilate all kinds of different societies along the way that didn't believe in Jehovah. And on that's gone. We evolved to where we had all kinds of different weapons, and from the Romans on and before that, war is just the way of things here on planet Earth. And there's all kinds of different warring going on, always has been and still is to this day. Even in the business world, the weak don't make it, the strong survive. Those that are willing to operate their businesses with less ethics than others, many times are the ones that survive. There's hostile takeovers all over the place going on. It's just the nature of things. We live in an extremely corrupt world. Corruption, in that sense, permeates through so much of our society and our life, especially with respect to our government. If we've learned anything over the last many years of life here on planet Earth, what you should have learned is you really can't trust anybody. It's so difficult to trust people. You might have a couple of close friends, you might have some family members you can trust, and you need trust. Trust is an important thing to make things work in business and in relationships, but it's really, really hard. And if you're just out there in the business world, trust nobody. Get everything in writing. Make sure everything is signed properly. Don't take checks. The list goes on and on and on. And this is just the way it's always been. I mean, corruption has built countries and built railroads and made things happen, and corruption is how things get done. So it's not necessarily all that bad, but it really is because of the people that are harmed in the meantime. Because the corruption that we're talking about here has gotten to the point where there's a huge amount of death and destruction, ruined lives, and wasted millions and billions of dollars going on just because of corruption. It's really quite disgusting. We've been under the thumb of dictators and tyrants and pharaohs and kings and queens for thousands of years here on this planet. It's always been a struggle for the masses of ordinary people. But it's always also been very wrong that we have been exploited the way that we have been throughout all the different cultures of the world and throughout history. The ordinary normal masses of people are usually taken advantage of by those that are the ruling elite. And as it's turned out here, the democracy that we've gotten, because, what they're doing is wrong, and we have fought against it, and we've made gains, and, eventually, hopefully, good wins out over evil, and we end up finding ways to have a society that isn't so riddled by the damage caused by so much corruption. Hopefully, we can figure that out. But as it stands right now, we're still completely owned by the financial elite, and they have their way with us. And it's not even an illusion anymore of some sort of freedom that we have. They're quite open about the fact that they're surveying us, that that they're in control of us, and they don't care anymore because they've got the game. The game has been rigged since the beginning, and there's really not much any of us can do about it. With those of us that live in what we think are free countries and run democratically by governments that serve the interests of the people as public servants, are really being fed a bill of goods, and really you can forget about all of that, because that's just not the way that it is. These are not public servants. These are servants of the people that got them into those positions of power and influence, and who are going to look after them afterwards. And it's all just a game that's played, and we're the pawns in all of this. And the biggest example of all of it is cannabis. Cannabis is how you can tell that what I'm talking about is true. Because if it wasn't true, if we were free people, if we had a democratic government that were servants of the public and out to do the public's good and protect us from all the things that might harm us as the public, then cannabis would be one of the most easily available things in our environment. It would be encouraged in so many different areas of life. There would be no barriers to accessing it. The poor especially would be making sure that they get it. But the opposite is true. When you look at the actual state of affairs and how for the last 100 years here in Canada, we've used the criminal law and amazing amount of resources to try to annihilate cannabis from our society. For what justification? In 1923, in January, when the Honorable Belland, Liberal minister, stood up in the Canadian Parliament and announced that there was a new drug in the schedule to join cocaine and heroin, or opium. That's all he said. There's a new drug in the schedule. And he sat back down. And ever since then, we've waged this war against people that would dare to try to have anything to do with cannabis at great expense to us as taxpayers, and to those people who have dared to use cannabis or grow cannabis or try to sell cannabis. It's a horrible, horrible example, but it's a really good example so that we can see what's going on in our world. This is how we get to know that those rumors of corruption are probably true, that all those conspiracy theorists are probably actually just talking about things that are real. I don't think the earth is flat. But I do think that we are nothing but chattel for a bunch of rich bastards who think they have their ownership papers of us, and they can do as they please on this planet. And they live in a completely different world than we do. They don't see things the way we see things. They don't use ethics the way we use ethics. They don't think that we're worth anything, except maybe what they can get out of us, the energy that we have, the money that we could make. And that's the way it is. Cannabis is the way, or the attempt to prohibit cannabis is the way that you can help to understand all of the corruption that's going on and how deep it goes. Drug prohibition. That's a ridiculous thing, isn't it? Drug prohibition. Who gets to prohibit a drug? And why would you prohibit a drug? What is a drug? A drug is something that can alter your frame of mind. It changes things within the human being. That's all it is. Why would you prohibit that? You would have to only prohibit that if you were in a position to prohibit that. Really, nobody should be in a position to prohibit that. What human being gets to tell another adult human being what they can and cannot put into their body? Now we're being told we have to put certain things in our body. Prior to this, we've been told we can't put certain things in our body. And still, it's nobody's business but ours what we put into our body. That's the one thing that we do have in this world, is our own bodies, our own life, and what we do with it. And yet here we are being told by some other human beings that we can't have access to drugs of certain types because they say so. Like I said, in the case of cannabis, they didn't say why at all. There had been some articles written in some newspapers about how this crazy new drug from Mexico was causing people to go violent and insane. But there was none of that presented in Parliament in Canada when they made that law that all of a sudden started costing us billions of tax dollars and ruining millions of our people's lives. There was no justification. Even with the prohibition of opium. That was a riot that happened here in Vancouver back at the turn of the century, where the anti-Asian women's group went and riled up all the mill workers about the Asians that were coming here and stealing jobs and stuff. And those people rioted on the businesses and homes of the Asian people. And the what do you call it? Looked into that. The inquiry into that resulted in them saying, well, look at these opium dens where people are hanging out there and smoking opium. We're going to just close those down. That was their answer to the white people rioting violently against Asian people that were here, just as people, just trying to live a life and find a job and do what people were doing here. The white people were no less immigrants than the Chinese and the other Asian people were. It's a terrible crime. And they made opium illegal for, the smoked version of opium that was being used in the dens. That's when they made that illegal. There was no justification for that either, really. Just a bunch of fear-mongering, a bunch of people that had no idea about whether that was a good or bad thing, deciding that that was a bad thing, mostly because there was a possibility of a mixing of the races at the time. No justification for any of it. No justification for coke being illegal. No justification for opium and any of those things being prohibited and illegal. All drugs can be used to help people. Most drugs can be used also in ways that are harmful. That's an individual thing. If governments want to tell us which ones are more dangerous than others, what the dangerous ways of using things are, that would be fine. That would be what governments should be doing. Tell us about things, educate us about things, warn us about things. But to prohibit, to decide that nobody can have these, we live in a world where alcohol is not only freely available, it's controlled by the government, advertised widely, glorified all over the place, and they make billions of dollars on it. We live in a world where commercial tobacco has now been determined to be killing millions of people. Every 12 months we lose millions of human beings. 6 or 7 million human beings are lost to commercial tobacco. Yet, do you think the government's going to make sure that everybody wears masks to protect them from tobacco smoke? Do you think that they would consider maybe restricting some of the additives that the commercial tobacco companies are allowed to put into their tobacco products? Do you think maybe they would have ministers of health and doctors standing up in front of cameras on a daily basis and talking about how many lives were lost today to smoking cigarettes? They don't care about that. They don't care about any of that. They never prohibited drugs because some drugs were dangerous and other ones were good. They didn't prohibit drugs because cannabis and opium and cocaine are bad, dangerous substances that can't be used properly or for benefit of people, and alcohol, commercial tobacco, and synthetic pharmaceuticals are just fine. It's not about what's good for us. Don't trust them. You can't trust anybody. You especially cannot trust the financial elite, the corporate bigwigs of this world, the purveyors of pharmaceutical drugs, tobacco products, alcohol products, or your local government. You cannot trust any of them. That has been well established over a long period of time now, and especially recently. So, let's do something about it. Let's become aware of it. Let's make everybody aware of it. If you know somebody that thinks that they should be trusting their government and they should be trusting that prohibition is for our good and that cannabis must be bad because they're obviously spending millions of dollars and not hesitating to ruin people's lives to keep them from getting it, if you know anybody like that, have a chat with them. Tell them the truth about things. Do the best you can. There's people in these positions of influence that must be really torn about their lives. And knowing the truth about one thing, like, 419, that's good. You got 1 minute to roll them up. I got 1 minute to finish up. Like the Canadian Justice Ministry, where for decades they've known that it's not a crime to possess drugs. How could that be a crime? A crime, by definition, is intentionally causing harm to somebody. Knowing in your head you're going to do damage, then going ahead and acting in a way that causes significant damage. That's a crime. Our Justice Ministry in Canada has known for decades that possession of flowers with the intent to feel better does not constitute a crime. So, write a letter to the Justice Minister. Write a letter to their assistant. Write a letter to anybody that comes anywhere close to those people. Write letters to the Health Minister. Send emails to anybody in positions of influence that you think maybe you could sway. Because these are human beings who didn't originally set out to be corrupted and put into positions where they're actually harming people in their jobs. And maybe if enough of us contact them and we give them some confidence, there's enough people behind them, maybe they'll use that confidence to stand up on our behalf and allow low barrier access to cannabis, among other things. So that brings us to 420, very special time of the day where we celebrate the nature of the magical vapors of cannabis. And as always, Glenn Wells visits me for this session here. 8 out of 10, Glenn, as we call him.
Yes.
Show us why.
How?
8 out of 10, Glenn. You too can have only 8 fingers.
Yeah, if you hold a bear banger and don't let it go.
Yeah, that's right. Don't do that unless you want to be.
I was doing that to protect my daughter from a bear. So
that's right.
That wasn't just doing it for a joke.
And as he proved earlier today, he can still roll joints.
Yes.
So,
yes,
you know.
I rolled a joint for Casey there.
So,
happy 420, everybody.
Happy 420.
Yeah.
Happy lead up to Christmas.
Yeah. We've got 2 more weeks to go. Or 2 weeks, about 18 days. Isn't that 18 days? Yeah.
2 weeks to Tubes and Doobs. There's something right around there too.
Yeah.
Tubes and Doobs, in case you don't know, we here on the downtown east side have decided to be inspired by Sterling in Saskatchewan, who gives away joints and socks to people that need them in the wintertime. And so for a second year in a row, we're also joining that cause, and we're raising money, trying to raise some funds here. We've already raised some. We're going to raise enough, and we're going to give out 500 pairs of socks, along with a bunch of other things and a bunch of joints. $500 worth of socks.
No, 500 pairs of socks.
Well, they should only be $1 a pair, shouldn't they?
Well, I don't know. Cabela's, they're really warm socks. They're really good socks.
They are good quality socks.
Four pairs in a pack. So, yeah. So, I don't know. It'll be 500
So it might not be 500 pairs. Or maybe it will be. If you donate some money to us and we can get more than that, maybe we'll do 500 pairs of socks. In any case, we're gonna help some people with their sock issues, and many people have like sock issues here on the downtown east side, especially in the wintertime. And it's a wonderful, wonderful cause.
Yeah,
so
and
help us with that.
It makes it so that they have at least a decent, because they're going to be here on that Friday, and they won't have a place to go, I guess. UGM already did their meal. They did their meal last week, so
yeah, we're going to serve turkey dinner here again.
Yeah, we'll have
all that kind
food,
of stuff.
and we'll have hot chocolates and coffees. But we need you guys to contribute, because we're at only $125. Now, Doug and Michelle have thrown in some clothing. We've got some toques and some caps, and they've got some women's clothing and that. So thank you very much, Doug and Michelle Sikora.
Yep. We all have some other donations as well here for that. We always give out clothes donations as well as those other things. So, that's
hot
all wonderful.
Food, hot drinks, tubes and doobs. Lots of doobs. We got George out in the van there rolling doobs for us.
If you want to get involved in the holiday spirit and get some of those good vibrations from helping people out, then here's another way to do that. So.
Yeah, and like I was saying in my video, a lot of us cannabis people will throw in for raffles or waffles. We'll throw in $5 to see if we can win. Well, they call it waffles because we're not allowed to call it raffle on Facebook, apparently, because then they want a piece of it or something. So it's called a waffle, right? So you throw in $5 and you can win a bong or a pipe or something like that. Well, with your $5, you could actually maybe inspire somebody to maybe take that next step to recovery that day, because their mood has changed. They're celebrating Christmas. They're feeling like they're loved, and you just never know what that $5 could do. So, help us out.
It's a wonderful thing to do, to give back, and we just try to be a vehicle for people to be able to do that. We're in a fairly unique situation here in the downtown east side, where we have access to people that really need help, and we've been helping them for a long time here. So if you want to help us help people, that's a great way to do it.
And Neil's got the link for the GoFundMe. If he'll put that up for us, that'd be great.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's like anything will help. Even if it's
so
close.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about CannaMatch and how that's going. We haven't talked about that for a few weeks.
It's grown to 4,434 now.
Right.
I'm just waiting for my settlement money so we can do the commercial next.
I see. Your commercial coming.
Oh yeah.
And so there's an app for that.
Yes, we're on Google Play Store. Just type in CannaMatch.
Very good.
Right. We have 4,000 people waiting to meet you.
4,000
All
people,
like-minded.
and spread out across Canada and the United States.
Yeah, and then with Spain, we've got some in other countries too, because wherever the internet is, CannaMatch is.
And not everyone is able to find cannabis like they are in Vancouver around the world. So at CannaMatch.ca, you can probably use that to get in touch with people who might know how to hook you up with some cannabis wherever you are.
There's lots of people
so it's a great resource for that as well.
Yes.
Maybe you find a friend. Maybe you find an intimate friend.
Yeah,
you never know.
You might find a partner,
Probably going to be a marriage or two, maybe some babies born.
I think there was already one marriage, and I know my friend Dan had met a girl on there, and they went out for a while too. So
nice.
There have been some good stories.
You've been creating love in the world.
Yes. TJ Patience said CannaMatch rocks. Thank you, TJ.
Nice. Very good. Yeah, it's another way that we can keep together as a community. We've been really separated, over the last couple of years here, and with what's happened.
If we do that trip across Canada, we can really tell people about CannaMatch.
That's right. We'll put a CannaMatch sticker on the RV, or the Tesla, or the whatever we're going to take.
We're going to drive in. Yeah.
Not sure how, but there's a really good chance that we're going to come and visit some people across Canada this summer.
Hopefully,
spend a month traveling. It's not a lot of time. There won't be a lot of time to visit as many people that want us to stop by. So, we'll try to make that itinerary.
We could actually drive in a week to the East Coast, but if we gave ourselves 4 weeks, we got 2 weeks to, mess around. A week
that's if you got two drivers and you keep going solid.
No, 5 days to Toronto, 29 hours from Toronto to Nova Scotia.
Yeah, but you're driving most of the time. You're not stopping.
10 hours a day.
You're not stopping and having a 3-hour session or 4 hour-long sessions or whatever it is. I know, Glenn.
Yes.
I've done lots of these trips.
I'm not going to drive all day. No.
And everybody wants to see you. There's so much time that you can spend in so many different places. You want to see a bit of Canada as well. You want to experience it not just out the window as it's rushing by at 100 kilometers an hour, but you want to experience Canadians in Canada.
The big teepee in Medicine Hat or something, or is that no? That's in Calgary.
There's not much there. That you can pretty much drive by.
No big ball of twine in Canada.
Well, there's not much there. There is the teepee. It's cool. You look at it. You drive by. I mean, and it's big, and the highway is fairly long. So even at 100 kilometers an hour, you got probably about 20 seconds that you can be looking at the thing as it goes by.
And then Moosehead's nice.
There's a lot of cool stuff. There's the biggest hockey stick in the world. There's all kinds of things.
We could go and see dinosaur bones if we wanted to.
Yeah, there's some wonderful places, and that's the thing is you do kind of want to spend a little bit of time doing some of that if you're going to make that trip.
Yeah.
That's what kind of makes it epic, and the people.
And the people. Yeah,
so you want to spend a little bit of time with people if you can too. So we'll try to find a route that'll work to see as many people as we can.
That's why I suggested the Tesla, because it's got to charge up for a couple hours each time, right? So we definitely would have time to sit around and do that session.
And we would have personal information as to whether or not taking a Tesla across Canada works. With the charging stations and what have you.
The self-driving, so we'll be able to test out the self-driving.
I don't know about the self-driving. I really like to drive, I'm a driver. I was born to be a driver. I don't like being a passenger, especially if the car's driving. That'd be weird, man.
Yeah, well, if you're going to be a passenger, you're going to have a big, huge laptop in front of you, and you'll be able to watch YouTube or play games on it while I'm driving.
No.
It does.
I don't do any of that.
It does that.
No, I wouldn't do any of that.
Oh, Isabel's looking forward to it.
No, I mean, I have driven across this country half a dozen times.
Yeah.
And I don't want to miss nothing.
No.
I don't want to drive at night.
No.
I want to see everything.
Yep.
I want to, and the things that are worth stopping and having a quick look at, I want to do that. That's how I feel every time when I'm going across.
Yeah.
And I know what it's like to speed across, too. And I know what it's like to drive at night, where you don't see anything.
Well, I was going to say there are some benefits of driving at night in Ontario, because I have on occasion seen the Northern Lights up there. So driving at nighttime, way up there, like
I've gone to
Hearst or something like that, right?
Exactly.
So
but that's different. That's not like different. Traveling.
We don't know what's going to happen, but we were at nighttime and then we saw this ghostly figure in the sky, and we're like, "What the hell is that?" And we figured out that was the Northern Lights, right? Yeah.
And there's been some amazing Northern Lights this past year.
Yes.
That's a little bit different. You're on a country road usually. You're heading up into the hills, and but
even then,
the other thing with driving at night is the animal dangers.
Yes.
And
Moose.
and that is very, very dangerous. There's other animals too, but moose and deer especially.
I have an interesting
they
story
kill a lot of
for
people.
you. Because I used to hitchhike across Canada all the time, so I never had a car, right? So this gentleman picked me up, and I was sleeping in his car, and all of a sudden the car slams on the brakes, and I put my hand on the dashboard, and I look up, and what do you know? There's this 6-foot moose standing right there, right?
Wow.
And I could have stood underneath this thing. It got stuck. There was a fox that chased it, and it was stuck between the two high cliffs. You know, when you're driving in Ontario, you got rocks on this side, rocks.
Yeah.
He had nowhere to go.
Right.
So yeah, just woke up and looked up, and it was my first experience of a moose.
Wow.
Wow, that really, wow, those things are huge. They're huge. No wonder they crush vehicles when they fall on you and stuff like that.
Well, and even small deer, when you hit hard and hit fast, they kill a lot of people. And,
Yeah, well, sometimes...
Yeah, I tell stories, but yeah, I've seen a lot of carnage on the highways.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
been a lot.
I've seen buses, like Greyhound buses, squished right up to the front row because it hit a moose. Mm-hmm. Right, the whole driver's section, just like an accordion, right in.
So be very, very careful when you're driving on the highways of Canada, especially at night. And for our trip, I'm hoping that we can do it a little bit relaxed and not in too much of a rush all the time. Especially if we're driving a big vehicle, or if I'm driving a big vehicle, I don't plan on...
Or if the vehicle's driving itself.
That'll be something different altogether.
We'll get you changed over, Neil.
That could work, man. We'll have to talk about that. We're not, we got 6 months or so.
Yeah, we got lots of time.
Lots of time. 7 months. So that's good. But that's a trip that I'm looking forward to as well. One other thing we'll talk about quickly is the mandatory minimums are gone for all of the drug offenses in Canada. That's awesome. There was 14 in total criminal offenses that they eliminated the mandatory minimums for out of 67 in total.
Yeah.
And 6 of those were for drug offenses, and that's all that there were 6 mandatory minimums. So that's really, really good. There should be no penalty for anything to do with cannabis for sure.
Yeah.
In fact, with any drug, it makes no sense to be charging people criminally, punishing them. The only reason there's people that are supplying large amounts of those drugs is because the government's prohibiting it.
And basically, you're saying that there's no minimum, so a judge can just say, charge dismissed. He doesn't have to give you that 2 weeks where the government says you have to get it, right?
No. Charge dismissed would be a different set of circumstances altogether. Okay. It's when the charge is accepted and you've been convicted that then his hands are bound as to how much of a penalty he or she could give a person.
Okay. So now there's also house arrest.
Yeah, and they're also now part of that bill is including some other avenues for judges to go with some sorts of rehab or other things like that, drug therapy.
I hate to see people be sent to rehab for cannabis.
Nobody should go to rehab for cannabis.
I know, but
I hope the government gets that.
The government
that right.
Could be like that, right?
Some people that have issues with other drugs, rehab can be an answer. But there's that whole scam of rehab. These treatment places for opium addicts and street drug addicts and even alcohol addicts are just preying on people. They're collecting huge amounts of dollars for very little return. The success rate is lower than 10%. The monies that they're getting are predominantly from government, so taxpayers are paying for this because we have an epidemic of overdose deaths going on. And so here in North America, in California, as an example, it's in the movie Body Brokers. I recommend you look at that movie. That'll show you what's going on. That's what I'm talking about, is there's a bunch of treatment centers that have sprung up because the government's decided that they would fund people that want to go into treatment. And so at $2,000 a head for the first 30 days and $5,000 a head for the next 30 days, and if it's a 90-day program with success, well, they've just made a whole whack of money for helping this person less than 10% of the time actually get over their addiction. Yeah. And they're not there to try to do that necessarily as much as they're there to just make money. It's all a big scam. And the amounts of money are just ludicrous. It's like in the hundreds of millions of dollars.
Do you think that's happening in Canada?
I believe it is happening in Canada as well.
We all know that the States is like for even with the correctional system, they want to get people in there so that those people can make money, and it's not a private. It's not. Okay,
so what isn't probably happening in Canada to the same extent as in like California, which is the example that the movie is based on, is that the government isn't paying for people to go into treatment. We're not getting a lot of taxpayers' dollars for ordinary people.
So it's normal people.
It's people that are willing to pay. Many families are willing to spend a lot of money to help their loved ones to get out of addiction. Yeah. In some cases, there's insurance that pays for it.
Yes.
So it's still a lucrative business for people to be in to offer treatment, and the success rates in Canada are similar to those in the States.
Well, I'm one of the 10%.
Yeah.
I went to Maple Ridge Treatment Center,
Right on.
and then I went back a couple of years later and volunteered and paint their basement
And first time through,
yeah,
it helped
first
you?
time. Yeah,
Right.
I did relapse, but that's sometimes part of your addiction and recovery is relapsing, realizing how you felt before and how you feel now. It really makes you really look at it, right? You know, it's like you don't want to feel like that anymore. You don't. It's.
I really, I never understood until I saw Body Brokers the problem in the first place. I really wanted to believe then, and I still want to believe now that there are good-hearted, well-meaning, well-intentioned, reasonable treatment options for people that are out there. I know we here at the Serious Hope Society have talked about what we're going to do with respect to treatment once we get our government license to be able to operate. And our ability to get a bank account and operate our society properly. That's a big part of what we want to do. It's a big part of what Mary McCarty wanted to do when she was here, was have like a 100-bed facility somewhere out in a very nice setting in nature and have everything in place and use cannabis, to help people get off of things and many other things as well. It's a multi-tiered strategy for helping people, get off of what they're involved with. In many cases, in almost all cases, there's serious underlying problems with respect to addiction. It's not that this substance has somehow taken hold of you and now it's got the controls of your brain and it's going to make you go and do more and do terrible things to do that. And it's that most people have underlying problems. They've suffered serious trauma. They've been abused in their youth, or they've witnessed things that nobody should witness, or shit has happened to them that they weren't able to deal with. And so this is how they deal. And and once you get on that track of dealing with it, once you go, here, try this, and then they try it for a couple of weeks, and hey, that really works. And then you try to get off it. I was just watching Picasso is now the genius that's on the Disney thing, and so. With Picasso, they got into opium. Him and a girl that he promised her he could make her happy. And one of his friends said, well, you could use the black arts. And that was part of what his answer to the black arts were to inhale some of the magical vapors of the opium. And so they were using that, and then he saw what was going on, and he got rid of it. He smashed it. He had nothing more to do with it. And there's scenes of them huddling together, trying to comfort each other. Because, and he said, no, we're not going to. She says, let's just do a little bit and try to feel a little. I don't know what happened there. But
Cato brought me some dinner.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Cato. But
we needed a little bit of comic relief there, didn't we? We're getting into pretty serious stuff there.
He dropped a dead mouse at my foot. So.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Good job, Cato.
I know, he's got it in there now.
Good job, Cato.
Sorry, but a dead mouse at your foot.
Yeah, I probably would have cracked up about that too. Withdrawal is hard, folks. That's all I was trying to say.
It is.
And there needs to be ways for people to get out of that, and I'm hoping there are some good treatment options. But don't trust anybody. Look into everything, research everything, talk to people, especially if you're going to go through that sort of a stage in your life, because there are a bunch of shysters out there that are really just trying to keep you addicted to those drugs so that you'll keep going back and relapsing and going back into treatment.
Dope sick, that girl goes to NA, and what does the old lady want to sell her in the washroom? Some more oxys, right?
Exactly.
Right? I never went to NA for my crack addiction because I knew that was just another place where I could meet more people who do the same thing as I do, right? And they would have connections that I don't have, right? So I had to do it myself.
Well, Glenn, we could talk for hours. I went to NA for my pot addiction.
Oh, did you? Yeah. Oh my gosh! Wow, that was supposed to be
I can't remember the year, but it would have been in the early '80s.
Early '80s, okay.
Married, my wife had decided that I liked smoking weed too much, and or didn't want to quit enough. It wasn't a problem.
I know, but she thought it was
never a problem.
She
the only problem was that when she said you should stop doing that, maybe I was like, why? No, I don't think I want to. And so that was the big issue. And there was more to it than that. I mean, it was a long story. But I actually ended up, going to a meeting and standing up and identifying myself as a cannabis user. And I pretty much got laughed out of the place. Like they were like, "Are you kidding me? Like." Seriously?
Yeah.
You're climbing walls at night? You're going out and sucking dick to get more drugs? Like, seriously? No, I never miss a day's work. I'm a really good worker, and I take all my family responsibilities really seriously, and I just like smoking cannabis. It really helps me, and But yeah, I actually went through that. So anyway, that's another story.
That's another story.
That's another story for another day. There's a lot of them.
I couldn't even finish my joint. It was so thick.
I didn't finish mine either.
No, eh?
That's all right.
All right.
So, yeah.
You got some guests this week, so I'm going to get
You
out
have
of
a couple
here.
of guests.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you coming on, Glenn.
No
It's
problem. We'll see
been
you next
like
week.
over 115 times now, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
But who's counting, eh?
Yeah, please contribute to the CSP Tubes and Doobs Vancouver, please.
Sure.
Yeah, we got 2 more weeks to go.
Yeah.
All right. See you later.
Thanks, Ben.
Bye-bye.
Have a great one. Have as much fun as you can.
Yeah, try to.
All right. Up next, one of my favorite people in the world, one of the silly Sikoras that has their weekly show there. I'll have to get him to tell me what the dates and times are of that. But Doug Sikora has been working in the industry for a very long time, doing all kinds of wonderful things. I believe that he has some stories to tell about a recovery as well and how cannabis could have helped him. And that's inspired him to do much of what he's doing. He's been an edible maker, helping people get access to cannabis, and a big donator to the CSP for a long time as well. And really, really happy to have him come and join us for a little conversation. Come on in, Doug.
All right, Neil.
I'm just fine, thanks. You. How was your ferry ride?
Oh, it wasn't too bad today. It was quiet, actually.
Yeah.
Not a normal thing for
My last ride on the ferry wasn't that long ago, and it was pitch black, and holy smokes, everything. The wind, I was parked right at the front.
Yep.
The wind was coming through the pylons that they had at the front, all blew right past me as soon as we started going.
The island?
Just coming from the island back to Vancouver. The trip over was during the daytime. And it was a bit rough too. I mean, there's a lot of whitecaps out there.
Yep.
But the trip back that night in the pitch black was so bumpy and
fun
so
one,
windy. Oh yeah, the car was just going like that. And actually, the car is pretty good because once I got out of the car, then I was like, holy smokes! And so quite a ride. But anyway, I like being on the water. I always feel safe on the ferries. I hope I am.
Well, we can only be so safe on those ferries, That's,
So did you see the CSU has released some figures there of what
I
they've been
read
up
a
to?
little bit about it. I haven't fully read about it, but I did see some of that interesting news.
They've stolen $25 million worth of cannabis from the dispensaries that they've shut down. They've put out they've $1.4 million in fines to people so far that they've charged people. This is one of the most disgusting times in my experience of anything in British Columbia politics. This legalization of cannabis that we've been handed is such a farce so far from what it is that we deserve.
We all know that.
Well, for anybody out there that doesn't know it, Canada has legalized cannabis for the rich and not for the poor and not for the sick and not for the people that were originally in the industry, although Weeds has now got 2 stores operating legally. I don't know how I feel about that. I'm happy for them. They're wonderful people. They've been working hard for a long time.
Forced to go that way.
And they were forced to go that way.
They had to make a business. And
I've witnessed that journey amongst many of the people that have been involved in the cannabis business prior to this so-called legalization. And even prior to legalization, when the city of Vancouver wanted to regulate the dispensaries that were here, and we didn't have legalization in Canada yet, but we had between 150 and 180 dispensaries.
We some 174, I think.
So they wanted to regulate those dispensaries, and they removed 7 of the revenue streams, including edibles. Whoa, there we are. Oh, I hope you didn't hurt yourself out there in the studio audience. You can pick yourself up right about now. There you are. You're back on your feet. You're turned around the wrong way.
A little Cato accident.
A little minor earthquake wherever you're living. For us, it was just the camera falling off. I hope you're okay.
He's got that mouse going on.
He's going a little crazy with the mouse down there.
We weren't joking.
That was Cato.
That's Cato. He's got a mouse.
Oh, man.
He's got a mouse.
So
he's not eating it. He's just playing with it.
we tried to get Cato to come on, but he's a stubborn little guy, and he doesn't like to come on much.
He's got his own thing going on.
He's got his own thing going on, but he's the cannabis cat. We love him. And maybe one of these days he won't be quite so camera shy. But what I was saying there is that prior to legalization, the city of Vancouver was going to regulate all these dispensaries, and they took away all these revenue streams, and they put on a $30,000 licensing fee per 12 months. Can you imagine?
No.
I can't either. And I wasn't a dispensary owner at the time. I had been before that. But I'm a big advocate for dispensaries at that time. And all of a sudden we hear that there's like 220 applications into the city for having a dispensary, like more than there were dispensaries. There was now people applying to have it, including all the ones that were there.
Anybody that had money.
So I wanted to know why, and I wanted to protest these regulations. And so I went around to all the dispensaries that I could find in Vancouver to talk to them. And it was pretty clear pretty quick what was going on. They all were helping people in profound ways. They had fallen in love with the business that they were in, and they wanted to keep doing it, and they were willing to be pushed that far down, and still they were willing to apply. So even though it would take away, most of whatever profits were involved in trying to run a dispensary, they were willing to do that because it wasn't about profits for the dispensaries. There's some dispensary owners, I'm just going to ramble for a minute here, that came into it for money. It became a lucrative thing to do because, the prices of cannabis were, enough that you could make a pretty good buck. And you had to because you needed to put money aside for legal fees and all the rest of that.
Yep.
But there was a good buck to be made. And there were some dispensary owners that got into it for that reason. Most of them, in my experience, the ones that I knew here in Vancouver, were activists, were people that were growers, were people that were already selling cannabis.
Medical.
They wanted to get cannabis out there, and that's why they were doing it. They were willing to face arrest because it wasn't just about making money. Everybody knew that you could get arrested, you could lose everything and more. And so all these dispensary owners, even the ones that got into it for money to begin with, pretty quickly they've got people that they're getting to know that are saying, thank you so much for helping me get cannabis. I love what you're doing. I need this so badly. For them to shut down their doors, they couldn't do it. They wouldn't do it. They would do everything they could to keep helping those people. And that's why they all applied, even though the city of Vancouver, they didn't expect that. They thought that most of them would just go away. That was their big plan. This was not a big money grab by the city of Vancouver thinking that 150 or 200 dispensaries would want to exist in Vancouver and all give them $30,000+. This was about the city of Vancouver wanting to shut down the vast majority of the dispensaries that were here. And that's what they thought would happen. And especially with the proximity rules that they had to both rec centers and schools, but also to other cannabis businesses, that would weed out a whole bunch of them as well. This was about all shutting down dispensaries. It wasn't about trying to get a whole bunch of money. That was just the bonus that they worked into that. Yeah, we'll hit them with a $30,000 a year licensing fee for anybody that manages to be within the right proximity and go along with all the rules. And then we'll still make bank on all of this. And we'll promise that there will be a big inspection force. And that's what we're going to use all this money for. That's what they said. I went to the meetings. That they were going to put together a big inspection force to make sure that all these licensed dispensaries weren't selling to children and breaking the rules. And they never did that. That was all just a farce. It was all just about making money as best they could. So anyway, I want to know some about what's going on with you. You've got a dispensary in Seashelt.
Yes, we're still. We actually now are the S&M Cannabis Education, Glassware and Gifts.
I see. And when did you start?
Same thing as you.
So how many years now?
With the sweet shop, we've been 2012 is when it's kind of started.
9 getting into 10 years here now.
Yeah.
And so you were the sweet shop, the S&M sweet shop for a long time.
Yeah.
Then legalization comes along, and you applied to continue to do what you were doing.
Through the town of Gibson's, our government.
You wanted the city to give you permission. But
we were not going to apply for the rec license.
Through the federal
We were getting a temporary use permit for a medical
from the municipality.
Store. Yes, and our municipality gave it to us.
Right.
It took a lot of time, but they did give it to us, and that's also when we got rated. We had that license.
So that's 2 years ago now.
February, yes.
2 years on February, the CSU comes
into our store.
Had they warned you ahead of time?
No, actually, they did come in. That's right, sorry. That would have been July. No paperwork was done. They basically just came in and told us this.
Had a
chat, left, went across the street to another one, and then went to the third one down below and basically gave them all a chat.
Right, saying you got to shut down.
June, I think it was, or something like that. Yeah.
So the following year in February, all of a sudden...
No warrant, no nothing, just came in. It was
seized whatever you had of product.
Whatever we had of product.
Cash.
No. They told secure any kind of stuff like that. They basically went after all smokables and edibles, and any kind of products that had THC or CBD in it. We also had a whole bunch of. At that time, we had a box full of government given to us by our clients that were buying this from the rec stores, wasn't working, wasn't strong enough, had to use lots of this, had to eat a handful of this, and it's still. So we kept those as an example for people to see our products comparison. So like strength-wise.
Right.
And a lot of people realize through that they got a lesson, got some education, basically. The CSU also took that box.
So they seized a whole bunch of your stuff. Who contacted who first after that? Were you charged?
No. Nothing was charged. They just confiscated everything.
Did they submit some fine or anything?
No. They basically were going to get back to us. They took everything. And before they got back to us, I just got to make sure I got this right or the wife will hate me for this. But we went down and filed in Supreme Court against them because we were following federal law.
Right.
We were not a recreational store. We would not sell to just anybody. You had to use it or prove by like federal law states you were using medically.
Right. So you were requiring some sort of a confirmation of diagnosis.
Yes,
and
some sort through a doctor, notary, grow license, prescription, anything that you wanted us to help you out, we were going to
just to appease the evil, corrupt government. You were going to make sure that
we
the
followed
people
the
that
law
you were
to
helping
the T.
out
No,
were people that really needed
We were
help.
very sticky with that. People would try to, and like, no, this is why we're doing this. And we're really
to protect
pushing.
yourself is why you were doing that.
Also,
to be able to continue to help people, you needed to make sure that you weren't.
And we have lots of
rules.
people that understood.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that convenience. They'll go to the rec store. They'll pay a higher price.
I know.
It's the convenience. It's no different than being able to go out to your grocery store.
I got people telling me, "Hey, there's a store in town I can walk into and buy cannabis. There's nothing else here, man."
Yeah.
Well, there's mail order, but that doesn't work.
Yeah, or with us, we have a clientele base.
And it's not right that's what's going on. That they're forcing people into that.
No, that's very wrong. They basically, and myself as medical, because I got myself off of opiates after 25 years. I've been close to 8 years.
I alluded to that a little bit in the introduction.
I'm 8 years about opiate free after being 25
And cannabis played a big role in that for you?
Cannabis saved my life.
Right on.
That's why I'm very high on continuing doing what we do.
Yeah.
Because when you see it for your own eyes, and I know it's safe because it was 5.5 years of heavy dose OxyContin I had gotten off of at the end. And I used high dose edibles.
Are you watching Dopesick? Okay, it's on Disney Plus.
Disney Plus. Okay, I don't have the Disney Plus.
Thanks to Glenn, I have Disney Plus now. I get to watch these things. And,
we've been talking about that, but it seems like every one of these shows now they want more money and you get this smote, and then it's funny corporation things again.
There may be ways to watch it without paying money for it. That's usually the case. I'm sure that's going to happen. Although I think it was Mary posted, here you can watch Dopesick, and I tried to go there and watch it, but it was, I don't know if I don't have the right pop-up blockers or what it was, but I couldn't get him to play properly for me. Yeah. But I think that you can. I'm just an idiot when it comes to computers.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know nothing about it.
I get frustrated, but it's like
these things
the simplest thing, and no, I get mad.
I like this because I can just talk to it sometimes, and if I phrase my question properly, I can usually get an answer that gives me.
Especially you hit the wrong button and everything is fucking.
Although today I was trying to get it to give me the contact info for the new federal minister of mental health and addiction, Carolyn Bennett.
Yep.
And it just wouldn't do it. Google wouldn't do it. I ended up going to DuckDuckGo, and I managed to get it. But for whatever reason, Google didn't want to give me that number and information. I already had it anyway, but I did talk to a person in Carolyn Bennett's constituency office, not in her parliamentary office where she's the minister.
Yeah.
But I tried phoning there too, and I sent an email there on November 10th, quite a long, because the new minister, mental health and addictions. This is big news, and I wanted to touch base with her right away and see if she was up to speed on our program. And what she can do for us, and hopefully, with her help, we can get the license that we're looking for. But, no luck. I sent her that November 10th. No answer back. I called her office a week ago. I left a fairly detailed message. Nothing back. So I called both offices this morning again. Left messages at both. And the person in the constituent's office called me back.
Well.
And so we had a nice little chat. I explained briefly what we were doing. She asked me to send her the email that I had sent to the minister, and she'd make sure that she gets it. So that's good. Maybe we can get some traction on that. I also copied it to Jenny Kwan and Don Davies, and to the CBC, and to the VPD, and to Rebecca Blythe. Everybody that needs to know what we're doing and follow this journey that we're on here. Because at some point, maybe it'll be in court. maybe we'll be able to bring all these things into court and say, well, look, we sent this email to the minister at this date, and we sent this email on this date, and we communicate with Health Canada, Because at this point, I don't know what to think.
We're the same boat, you know.
I want to get back to your story before we go into much more what's going on with us. But so you got proactive on it. You were not happy about it. Pretty sure of that.
Pretty sure.
I think I saw a video or two of Michelle's where she wasn't very happy about it either. I love you, Michelle.
Yeah.
And,
well, you know, it was taking medicine away from our patients. And it was just,
that's the biggest thing. I know what it feels like.
Especially we know that one of the RCMP actually has a disabled child that could benefit big from this. And we, you know, I don't want to mention names or anything. It's sad because she knows what the benefit could be for her child.
Right. I had a VPD undercover officer out here the other day. Someone lit a fire right up against this wall. In fact, probably right here. Lit an old chair on fire, a big leather chair, and boy, did that ever burn. But standing there watching it burn with this undercover cop and telling her, you know, I like to every time I get a chance to talk to any VPD, I tell them who we are, what we're doing here, And I was telling her as well, and she says, I like weed. I like weed a lot. I think it really helps people. So very happy to hear that.
It's nice to hear once in a while.
Nice to hear. Yeah. So being very unhappy about it, you went to this, and feeling like you had done everything right. I mean, that was the other point.
We had all the business licenses.
You've been trying to do everything right for a long time.
Yeah, over 6-7 years, we were dealing with both municipalities, trying to work with our local.
Storefront, all decorated up, and name out in there, and you're not trying to hide from nobody.
No. We were not. The colors, you know, basically were pink and green. Green for marijuana, and pink was for cancer. That's how we came up with those colors.
I see.
No other idea. Nothing else. Not to attract children. Whatever other crap we had to listen to hear to, and everything else. No, right. It was because they're mellow, friendly colors.
Yeah.
That was it. Yeah. That's it.
Same with edibles. You know, I mean, they want to make edibles not attractive to children. Well, fuck off.
Go into a liquor store and look at the pop shop root beer alcohol drinks that are exactly. It's weird. If you do look, they're very low. All those kind of stuff. It's very
even in the pharmacies at London Drugs and Shoppers. They got all kinds of gummies and stuff for different medicines now.
Yeah, that's okay though.
That's okay though. And it's not about catering to children. It's about we're catering to sick people. We're catering to the inner child of people that are suffering, and they need to feel good about things, and they want to have something that makes them feel good. Food is a comfort to people. When it looks good, when it tastes good, when it feels good.
If it can remind you something from your past in a childhood that you open the door, that's the way I always looked at when I was making these products. Was everybody has something favorite, whether it was when you were 5-year-old, an 8-year-old, there's a favorite flavor of something sweet that was in your head. Yeah. And if I could make that and help open up that door, I always looked at, well, that's part of the healing right there.
So how many flavors have you created in your career here?
Oh, fuck.
Sorry, Annie Barbie, but you know, this is important stuff here.
At the end, altogether with flavors, we were up to number 285 on our menu.
And primarily like suckers, but other things as well.
Well, we had 46 flavors of lollipops, 32-ish, I think, flavors of gummies. The chocolates were others, and then we had the bubble gum. We had the fresh fruit popsicles out of our garden that we made.
Nice.
Basically, it was just coconut milk and fresh fruit out of our garden. I believe Glenn might even have that.
Yeah, wasn't there yogurt?
That's one. That's right.
I'm reminded of...
and the oh my gods.
The OMGs. The OMGs are still... I still make those. I get requested for those. The baking in that is not as productive as we were before, just because of legalization. People, convenience. Well, you know, like we always saw, if you can walk right there and get it, then that's what's going to happen. I'm
reminded of Carol Gwilt in court, where they brought in as evidence what they had seized there in the form of brownies and cupcakes and fancy desserts.
We had the same thing.
And here we are, and I'm thinking, this is we're in some surreal parallel universe here where everything is just upside down and backwards. We're in a court of law, And here they've got these cupcakes and these brownies that help people with their medical conditions and make them feel good. And this is the crime, Your Honor, and this is what we found her in possession of.
Well, that's what we brought in the first time when we got raided at the house, and Michelle beat that one for us. We actually brought in to court what the edibles and everything else that they had gotten from us, and it was less than a quarter ounce of weed altogether in that whole little thing of edibles. These guys just didn't know, and they thought it was just. Yeah. But we had beaten that one, and so this is our second go around now.
Good on you for doing it. And so, what's going to happen on this one now?
We are still waiting to hear.
And it's been almost 2 years.
The ball's in their court now. When we go to court.
And you're willing to hear what, that they're going to give you back your stuff, or they're going to compensate you in some way? What are you looking for?
We basically want to be a licensed medical provider store. We are the ones that grow it, we make it, and we bake it. There is no suppliers than us. Everything in our store was made by me and grown by my wife.
So do you have an application into Health Canada to be able to be that?
We are just waiting for this court case to deal with. One step at a time.
Right. But that would be the next step.
Because we were following the law 100%. So you couldn't. I don't know how much more we could have followed the law to the law.
Recognizing that the law is also an ass, and in this case, it really is an ass.
And with
yet they're still trying to follow
paperwork, even when they came in and we're pointing like, "Hey, there's all the license. Like everything's like, I don't know why you guys are in our store, but province put together that little brute force, the CSU. And they had a lot of without license or warrants come in, just do what they could do
without warrants and without warrant.
Yes.
Without warrant.
Yes.
They have no reason to be doing this, to be seizing $25 million worth of cannabis that's intended for people that are going to use it to feel better. They're not going to use it to hurt anybody.
Medical.
They're not going to use it to hurt themselves. They're not going to use it to hurt anybody.
It's not a public safety.
There is no epidemic of people, being hospitalized for complications due to cannabis use.
No.
There is no individuals of any sport that have been harmed in any significant way. There is a handful of youngsters that get into their parents' edibles and end up, having.
Well, that's an irresponsible parent. If they do get them, it's no different than a bottle of pills or a bottle.
But it's not an epidemic of child maiming or anything else. No one is maimed in any way. The experience is, and the hospitals know it. You don't pump the stomach. You put the child into a comfortable space and setting, and time will make it so that by the next day they're feeling not only fine, but probably better than they did prior to the experience. That's just the truth of it.
It's
that's the experience of people. So they don't have anything like that to justify what they're doing. This is nothing but a protection racket being operated without any justification to prop up artificially high pricing for a bunch of investors that have managed to convince the government that legalization will be good for everybody. Yes. Because the investors are going to make a bunch of money. The government can tax the crap out of it. That was Larry Campbell's thing all the time. Let's make it legal and tax the crap out of it. Well, I disagree, Larry. I don't think there's a good reason to tax the crap out of something that's a benefit to people, that's helping people. You should make sure that people get it, not make sure that there's a barrier of some sort.
Well, this is a thing, though. They have now started making, like in Seychelles now. Okay, on Sunshine Coast, there are 6 stores, and there is a BC government store now open over on Sunshine Coast.
And the other 5 are not?
And the other 5 are privately owned. Weeds is one of them.
Weeds is a government store.
Well, yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, you're saying privately owned but government stores.
Yes.
So there's
privately owned government stores, and then they have the
that's
BC
a real distinction there.
Government store.
Yeah, there's a government store, which has a distinct advantage.
It's very ironic where they put it over in Seychelles, because they built a new part of a mall in the Indian band, and they actually got through with the Indian band, and they opened a liquor store, and I believe that'd be the first one in Bandland. They actually opened a liquor store, and then they opened up the cannabis store 2 doors down from that. Right. So you have your one-stop shop of government stores.
Supply.
Yes, with the grocery store right there too. They kind of took this mall over.
Are you aware of the injustices with respect to the government-run store and then the other stores?
Well,
I think I'm going to see if I can get Carol or Don or both on the show again. In fact, it's probably time to do that and talk a little bit about what's going on with them and their journey as well. Carol, I can't remember exactly what she said the discrimination is, but there's a distinct advantage that's being given to that government store over her store.
Yes. Oh, I agree. Oh,
So
no,
we'll get her
I
there.
agree, because...
And not just in location or anything. There's other things. There's policies, regulations.
Besides location.
There's,
It's no, seriously, you're driving in the Seashell, and what do you see? And it's the first big lights you're going to see is the big government liquor store, and then just a little ways down it says Cannabis Store. It's just, and it's
Man, I got
ironic how they got that perfect spot.
I'm sure you have mixed emotions about it too. I certainly do.
I can't. I gotta leave that alone. I gotta go. On another hand,
Well.
too, I noticed. I don't know if you noticed. I'm still growing the hair, Neil. I am still not long enough to donate for my just the cause that I'm donating my hair to cancer.
Nice.
I've been growing it for 21 months now, I believe. Damn hair. I tell you, I took the challenge on way back, and I'm still working on it. We're still, I believe by this spring I should go back to my normal short hair. I'm hoping.
You're measuring it regularly?
Well, no, I'm just kind of guessing, but yeah, still.
It's growing.
It's growing.
Hair grows.
It can be annoying.
I had long hair for most of my life.
So did I for a lot of years, but I know why I got rid of it, because it can, it's okay, but I can grow it, so I'm going to grow it and donate it.
I just watched the three-part Beatles documentary. That's well, it's not really a documentary. It's an expose of the last time that they ever performed live. Although I guess they were in the studios at some point after this one that they did in their Abbey Road studio. But it's quite the expose of how they worked together. How things were with them. But they inspired me back in those days to grow my hair long.
I was starting.
My father, he was all about military style haircuts.
Yeah, back then.
He was a bit tough on me, and we knocked heads about hair, and I ended up having to run away from home and spend a couple nights in my tree fort before Mom would come to the school and convince me that it would be okay. I could grow my hair long if I moved back in. So I grew my hair long, and I had it down to my shoulders by grade 12. And I remember sitting at the family dinner table, and my dad's grumbling away about my hair. And right behind him is a very large portrait of his favorite person in the world, Jesus Christ. And
who had long hair?
It just occurred to me that him and I had almost identical hair.
Too funny.
So that came into that evening's discussion. And then for me, I decided to compromise for business purposes, for dealing with people. I didn't want to be just a long-haired, so I had the mullet.
Yeah.
What can I tell you? It was that time in life, in history.
Well, that's it. The mullet came.
It was business in the front and party in the back, and I still wanted to be a party guy, so I kept that going. I still had my. I dug my feet in when it was, when I ran away from home to grow my hair long. I dug my feet in. I was not going to get rid of my long hair, but I cut it at the front.
No, it didn't get cut anywhere. It's just.
And I remember with my dad, I would say, you always told me I needed to look half decent.
Yeah.
I love my dad. He's been gone for 10 years, but he was a good guy. I loved him a lot. And so there I am with a mullet. And I'm deciding I got to go across Canada to do this thing about getting to Ottawa for Remembrance Day to talk about what freedom is with the Prime Minister. And I'm going to take 5 months to get there. And I'm going to rollerblade as much as I can. And I'm going to meet all the mayors and the police chiefs and the media and the activists. And that was the Freedom Tour back in 2006. So I do the Freedom Tour, and I'm back in Vancouver. And I get to take part in a presentation at UBC, SFU campus on Hastings Street here. They've got a building that they set aside as an off-campus facility. And I'm speaking there. Actually, Larry Campbell. He was there that night too, talking about tax and regulate. And so I was there speaking, and they had 2 cameras on me. They had the one on the front, and then they had the one in behind. And the one in behind, oh man, when I watched that, it just looked terrible. It just looked horrible. So I decided that we would have a death of the mullet. It's probably still on YouTube. I haven't looked it up for years and years. But we did a little fundraiser at the seed bank, the Vancouver Seed Bank, to raise money for the next tour across Canada. I was going to go and do it again the next year, and I did. And so we bought these big golden scissors, and my friend Kara was the top donator, and she got to chop my hair, and Kara just passed away. I just heard.
I'm sorry to hear that.
A very young woman just passed away. And Michelle Rainey, they were best friends.
Well,
Michelle Rainey also passed away about 11 years ago now. And now Kara's gone as well. I'm very, very sad for that. My sympathies to all of her friends and families. To Jeff, my God, that's a shock. That was a real shocker. Nobody saw that one coming. But anyway, sad. But Kara got to cut my. I've still got it. We tied a knot in the end of it. It looks like a mouse. A rat.
You still got it.
Still got it. It's not here.
Maybe that's why Cato's gone.
It's not here. It's in storage.
It's like
it's in storage somewhere.
Cato doesn't know where you're storing.
But yeah, I cut my hair that summer, when I got back just before I went on the next Freedom Tour, I cut that off. I found I got so much more respect in the police stations and the mayor's offices that I was visiting again for the second year in a row. And I've never had my hair as long as it gets ever since.
Trust me. Yeah, I didn't think it was gonna take this long. Trust me.
I'd like to grow it back out, but I don't have the hair for it anymore.
I got the hair, but I thought it'd be a lot faster. And and when it's like, oh man, this is it's gonna take. But this spring,
my take on it, I think it looks good. I think you look young and like you're happening, and you could be carrying a surfboard behind you.
Yeah.
The show's already calling them long hair in comments.
It's a real fun, trust me, especially because we have the 2 puppies that we got last year, and they're a handful.
Right. But more than that, it's good because you got this silly Sikora thing going on, which is
we
awesome.
took a little break. We took a little break for about a month or so. We just did one last week. We did one, but we're just kind of coming back. We got things we're looking at, especially Christmas up. We got a couple things we're taking care of, and just family coming over.
Stay silly. Stay silly.
Gotta
stay silly.
Gotta go out there and make people smile. That's the whole thing. That's what the whole thing was. Like, here just to smoke a joint with you, do a dab with you. Hey, just take a half an hour of your day and just take a break if you have to. And we'd be on Sundays, and hey, if you need to just come and say hi, smoke a joint with us. Yeah, that's all it was.
It's so important. With Pot TV, we got the 420 Lifestyle, which is a lot about that. There's the Wake and Bake on Thursday morning there with BC Bud Gal. Because you got to keep things light.
Yep.
You got to find ways to feel good about what you're doing.
That's right.
You can't just dwell on the misery of the situation. Try to find some hope and move forward. The other component of that is making it fun, is somehow having some fun, somehow feeling like you're making a difference, feeling like you're maybe jabbing it to the big guy, sticking it to the man, whatever it is. You got to have that frame of mind. That's what helps to drive people into getting change to happen, is having fun. Is like, this is cool, man. I don't like the way things are. These fucking asshole rich bullies are really making life hard for my grandma, for my auntie, for my kids, for the next generation, for whatever it is. You recognize that there's some evil fuckers that don't give a shit about us, that are really fucking with us and our families and our futures, and something needs to be done about it. Well, it's dreadful to think about that, but if you can find a way to do something about it that
every little bit helps.
Puts a little kick in your step, it gives you a little fuck yeah, that's that moment of that fuck yeah, like scoring a goal. We're hockey people in Canada. We like scoring goals.
That's right.
That
was a good game.
The Vancouver Canucks with a new coach. He's only coached in 1 game, and already they're 3 wins in their last 4 games. Figure that one out. I wish them well.
That's what it's. We'll see what happens.
Are you a fan?
No. Of course I'm a Canuck fan, but it was like, fire the whole shit caboodle and then throw the dice and holy fuck, we won!
And a shutout too.
And a shutout too, yeah.
The new Bruce Boudreau, he has a great reputation for giving teams a big bounce when he steps in there, and he's got a good regular season record, so I hope they do very well. But, I have a right to speak up. You know, I've been a fan
you
for
do.
50 years.
All fans
We've
do.
talked about it on the show here for a while. I love the Canucks. I want them to win. I'll cry. I'll fall to
Yep.
my knees and cry if they win the Stanley Cup.
On
But
the show?
But sure, yeah. I doubt I could stop. Not because I'm going to do it on purpose, but because I
you
know that's how
that's
I
the
feel.
only time
I
you're probably
know
gonna
that,
see it.
that's what's going on in me. That I will feel that way. I will do that for sure, 100%. But I have no more faith in them anymore. I have a little bit of hope, but no faith. I don't think they can win it, not in my lifetime, and maybe never, you know, because of a whole bunch of reasons, and that's all. I'm okay with it now. I'm okay with it now. I wasn't okay when I hadn't come to that conclusion. Year after year, I believed the hype out of training camp.
Oh, of course.
That, you know, and then they were going to win the cup this year. And then they wouldn't even make the playoffs, or even if they made it, and then they even made it to the Stanley Cup final twice, and up 3-1 against Boston. By that time, I'd already not had any more faith. Thank God for that, or I would have killed myself probably. And maybe that's what saved my life. Was the year before in 2010 when they lost to Chicago the second time in the second round in a row. I went,
That's it.
that's it.
That's it.
Never again am I going to believe the hype. Never again. Never again. And then the next year, they go all the way to the Stanley Cup final. They're up 3-1, and I'm still telling my dad, bless his heart, he was still there. He never got to see it in his lifetime. I'm still telling him when he was asking, I don't believe they're going to win, Dad. I do not believe they're going to win this game or the cup. And they didn't win the cup. And I'm okay with it. Because maybe had I not come to that conclusion the year before, maybe I'd be like some of those guys that actually jump out of buildings when their team loses the Stanley Cup. It happens. Like,
Oh, yes.
it happens.
Oh,
It's a
yes.
thing.
Yes.
Don't ever
Yes.
do that. It's not worth it. It's just a game.
It's a game.
You know, screw emotions. You know, like
Be
don't
a good
let
fan.
emotions
Just
do
don't
these
know
things.
jumping out of windows. No.
Whenever
Don't need
you
that.
get like that, shut off your emotions. Stop
Yeah,
thinking
turn off
about
the
stuff
TV.
like no more doom. Just just neutral for a while until you can just focus on positive things. Form new habits about
That's
having
right.
fun and positive things there.
Positive.
But yeah. So anyway, that's how I am about the Canucks.
But yeah, the Sikoras also will be back. We'll be coming back. Of course we will.
Didn't know there was any hope that you would, or any thought that you wouldn't.
No, of course. We just took a little break, you know. Got to take the time out every
Take
once in
some
a
time out
while.
once in a while. I'm going to do it too.
Yeah,
I am.
you need
You
to.
wait. When I get the license for our little shop there, you know, when they do the right thing finally,
Well, we'll see how long.
you know, what a ridiculous
We
journey
know.
this is, you know.
It's a journey. It's a journey
It is.
that, yes, need to keep sticking together. And you know,
I talked for 20 minutes at the top of the show about, you know, a little tiny glimpse into just the nature of life on the planet. It's always struggling against the powerful, struggling against the bullies. And it's evolved to where we are here. And it all makes logical sense when you think about the histories of things and all of these sorts of things. Business ethics being involved against human ethics and all these powerful forces that have had control of the masses of people for all of this length of time. And they've learned how to exploit out of us all that they can get. And they own us and they like that idea and they play with that idea. And, and they rub our noses in to the point where we all don't like it very much. And some of us don't just give up because their whole point is to intimidate people to the point where they give up. So some of us don't. Some of us just decide, I'm going to do something.
Got to do something because, you know, there isn't enough of us to do something. We have to keep standing the stand for everybody.
So, yeah, and eventually it's a process because it's been a long journey. It took a long time to get to where the thing was so corrupt as it was. You know, when you started your story and for the couple decades before that, when we had the 70s movement to try to end the prohibition of cannabis because this was so harmful and ridiculous and ludicrous, and enough people were behind that one and that was just so ridiculous that you could get people behind that one, that we had that big movement, and then shut down mostly by the media talking about the soccer moms worrying about their kids and you know, can't make weed legal. And that's how that all kind of got set back, was because of that campaign that they went on. You know, to protect the children, we have to keep weed illegal. We've already got alcohol and cigarettes. We know they're bad too, but we don't want to add another one to the list, they would say.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then they had that campaign.
Three of the worst, yes.
Very sophisticated campaign to put down legalization at the time. There was a really strong movement in the 70s. And then it came back, and you know, in the early 2000s, we started to develop Cannabis Day, the 420 rallies, cannabis culture came along. There was, you know, just a couple of activists, but in all the major centers, and some coordination by them. And then the internet helped a lot, you know, with the cannabis culture forums back in the day, and then now social media. But the powers that are against the legalization of cannabis and the other plants that threaten their their bottom lines is so powerful and sophisticated. The corruption is so deep that what we're experiencing, what you're experiencing and have experienced here, you know, it's scary that they have that much power, that it can be 14 months of our Health Canada public servant, the guy in charge of special licensing and exemptions divisions, to tell me that their team has been working diligently on our file since they got it. And it's been 14 months.
Wow.
I have two questions that I put to the minister in my email. One is, how much money must that have cost taxpayers to have a team of people for 14 months working diligently on our file?
Yes.
A team. And two, why is that so complicated to give us what is so necessary and required to save people's lives? They're really killing people by hampering us the way that they are. With the handcuffs that we've got on us right now, operating out of an RV, going into our second year out there now. You know, it's not a safe space for people in the winter time, even in the heat of the summer, and never. So, you know, we are really being hampered by the lack of cooperation from Health Canada with respect to our licenses. What is so complicated for them to have to be working on it daily with their team to be able to figure out how to allow us to do what it is that we've been demonstrating successfully for almost 5 years?
Yes, you have the proof. I know.
We have doctors, professors, the entire city, all the harm reduction groups. Everybody supports what we're doing.
It makes no sense.
It makes no sense.
No.
The only thing that makes sense is this is about big money.
Yes.
It's about really big money.
Yes. And they're wasting money on doing what they're doing. It's
There are so many facets of this, so many layers of corruption going on that are preventing reasonable access to cannabis to the sick and suffering people of our country here. We need to be very alarmed by that. You know, we have an epidemic of overdose deaths.
Oh, it's crazy, the overdose.
Dwarfing the numbers.
We all know that too.
You know, the numbers are just insane. The demographics are right across the board.
Yep.
This is not just poor homeless people that are dying.
No. It's your brother, your sister, your mother.
You have no idea?
You don't know.
Because people all over this country are addicted to opioids because of OxyContin.
It's sad. It's just
because of doctors prescribing opioids, you know, to get bonuses and go on cruises.
Here I am, man. I mean, like they're free to prescribe me, and I finally realized what they were doing. The bastards.
They killed a lot of people already.
Yep.
And it continues.
Yeah,
and we're demonstrating as clearly as we can, and doing it as, you know, our lawyer is the best. John Conroy is the best, and what he has done for us in the way of presenting our case for a license to Health Canada is second to none. And they can't say no. If they could have, they would have. Trust me, by now. 14 months in and they haven't said yes yet. You know, if they could have said no, they would have. But they can't, because we have all these people behind us. We have the truth behind us. We have the record behind us. We've given out millions, thanks to yourself and all these amazing donators that continue to provide us with what we need to flood this neighborhood with the edibles that are required. And we have, you know, kept track of all of that. And it's millions of milligrams of high-dose edibles. High dose. Not 10 milligrams at a time, although we do that as well for people. They can take that much if that's what works for them. And we let people figure out for themselves. But we're dealing with people mostly who've been dealing with hard drugs. And most of the people, by far, I don't know, we could speak for that for just a few minutes. Most of the people, by far, the vast majority, are people that are dealing with serious pain, be it emotional trauma, be it physical trauma, things that have happened to them have driven them to require the type of pain relief that you get from opioids. And just briefly, is that your experience as well? Did you have underlying issues?
I got 6 pieces of plastic in my back.
There you go. So yeah, from all walks of life, from all demographics of economics, people are stuck on opioids because that's the doctor's go-to and has been for a long time.
And you get addicted, and it's a bad cycle.
It's a bad situation right now.
And you ain't getting off with.
And the doctors are now being scrutinized even more because of the amount of deaths. You know, they watch Dopesick to find out the investigations that were going on at all the different levels because of all the deaths and all the crime that increased because of it, because what happens is then the doctors get scrutinized, they stop prescribing as much, they stop allowing those people that they've been supporting,
And they cause more problems.
and then those people go and start stealing or whatever they do to continue on doing it. So it's just a horrible thing going on here, and we're trying to fix it with cannabis. And that was my other point about, at the end of my thing at the first 20 minutes is about weed is the example of how corrupt things are, but weed is also the answer to getting us out of this, to move our society
it's
into
like
a different way of thinking.
The ability that if we look back, make hemp come back, biofuels, it could be concrete, it's
On
nuts
and on.
what the corporations will not allow.
Yeah.
And I still don't understand why somebody like, I don't know, we'll just throw one of those billionaires out there, doesn't go spend some money and start a big factory and become this new, but I don't know, it's just weird why they don't use this plant that you could cut
Watch
down.
the documentary called Monopoly, and maybe it'll give a little bit of insight.
For some reason,
It's only an hour long, you can find it on YouTube. It doesn't come up right away. Who owns the world?
Yeah.
Monopoly, who owns the world, and then there's.
But we won't get into that.
But seriously, we're up against powerful forces, and
that's it. That's
and
all
weed
I'm
is the
gonna
answer,
say.
and we can do
We
it.
know that.
We know that, and we're going to do that. Thank you so much for coming on the
good
show. Thank you
seeing
so much
you,
for
Dan.
all that you've been doing for all this time.
Buddy,
love your work.
me and Michelle, we're always here to help as much as we can.
Yeah.
It's been
You've
slow,
been doing
tough
wonderful
go,
work
and
for a long time.
We're still out there doing the fight. That's
I think
it.
better days are ahead.
Yeah.
I think
well,
you'll win your thing with the CSU, and then you can apply to Health Canada.
Yep.
I'll share some of our application with you, and I think we're going to have low barrier access cannabis stores in Canada. I believe
Eventually. It has to be. It's just something that people are realizing.
In that, I at least have serious hope. I'm not sure about faith yet, but I think I even have faith. But I have serious hope that that can be something that we're going to get.
Yes.
Because you're not going to stop.
No.
And I'm not going to stop.
No, I
And
wouldn't
Don
stop
and
because
Carol-
it is my medicine. It's my wife's medicine. That's the only thing we use. I don't do prescription pills.
Yeah.
I haven't. It does what I need
Yeah.
to do.
And
That
right
plant.
behind us, I'm a little farther along than you, but when they put me in a box and shove me in the ground, I know there's a bunch of other good people that are going to keep on going. This is a process. This is a journey. This is coming from a position of no power into a position of where I think the people can have some power back. We can have representative government that's limited, accountable, transparent. We can have them protecting us from corporate influence. We can have corporate greed recognized as a serious crime against humanity.
Yep.
And we'll see where we end up.
We'll see
But
where we
like
end
I
up,
say,
yeah.
me, you, and I could name, I could go
Yeah,
a lot
we
of
know.
names
Yeah,
that
we know.
will not stop until
No.
either we're gone or we get what people need to have. Because somebody's got to stand up for the sick and suffering poor people of Canada and this world that are not able to stand up for
That's
themselves. That is my sense of it,
That's right.
is that there's people that are suffering that need help and they can't help themselves. So that could be me.
That's right.
I see these people every day. That's what wears on me so highly, is that any one of them could have been me. I could be there and I'm
right.
not. I'm here and I'm able to do this.
So you can help,
So I
that's
can
what
help.
you're doing.
And if you can help.
That's what we're
And if
doing.
you can't help and you need help, reach out.
Yep.
There are people that'll help. And a cannabis dispensary, CannaMatch.ca, the Cannabis Substitution Project, all these different things are areas that you could reach out to. And
Yep.
I think you'll find some help. Cannabis can help with lots of different things. So
But the
thanks.
S&M Sweet Shop, we always love to, Merry ho ho. If we don't see you in
Merry
between,
ho ho. Have a great
sure
Christmas.
We'll talk in between that.
We'll be seeing each other probably in cyberspace like we normally do.
Yeah,
a little
of course
bit.
we will. Of course we will.
yeah.
But have a great night, Neil.
But it is that time of year,
And I got a gift too, a
Happy
favorite
Merry
too.
Christmas, great New Year, and always have as much fun as you can. Well, we are trying to have as much fun as we can despite horrible things that are happening, but that's just the way it is, Keeping it light is part of the deal. Balance in life is what makes things work. It's the yin and the yang of all things that make things work. You must have that going on. You can't just always be sad, and really you probably can't always just be happy. People that are trying to always just be happy, they have some real serious falls sometimes. It just works out that way because it's the universe we work in. It's a yin and yang place. It's an up and down experience. Life is like that. If you're having a down, just wait a little bit of time. Time brings you back up. Something good happens. It's just the way it is. Most people, it's up and down, up and down, up and down until you go. It's not usually all down, but it is sometimes. Anyway, trying to have as much fun as we can, trying to be as light as we can. I I'd like to invite back onto the show Casey McFarlane. She joined us last week. She's been a contributor to cannabis culture for the last little while here, and she brings a good energy to the movement. And we like to have young people that are interested and enthused about what's going on, or maybe upset and angry. We'll find out which of those she is, because we need that. Because as I just said, if once I'm gone, I'm hoping that there's other people to come up behind me that have some youth and energy to continue the battle for the freedom for those that can't fight for themselves, and for the next generations to come, and for all of us that deserve to not be so exploited by all these people. So, Casey, welcome.
Thank you.
Which is it? Are you curious and excited, or are you angry and upset?
I think the anger has propelled a curiosity and an inspiration, kind of.
Nice.
Because I wouldn't really be caring about it if I hadn't have felt some sort of anger towards the issue.
Was there something in particular that made you angry that you noticed, or how did you come to be aware?
Just how did I come to be aware? I guess cannabis helped me quite a bit. And I wasn't looking for it, really.
By consuming cannabis?
Yeah.
And then thinking about
it
things?
Influenced my thoughts.
Nice.
And how I would view the world.
I've said that a lot of times, that's what cannabis kind of does for people. Makes you think about things.
Sure, it's affected my short-term memory, too. I can't really remember much, but anyways.
Well, you're not supposed to remember the bad things. That's the power of cannabis. You got to let the bad things go real quick. The good things, you'll remember them, you know. The good things, they linger along. They come back to you. But the bad things, you need to let them go pretty quick. Take the lesson, move on, don't dwell on it.
Yeah.
So what sort of things, were you thinking about?
Well, yeah, just in regards to the whole issue with addiction that we have, well, I have had a family member of mine, who's been affected. I'm sure a lot of other people have too.
So what's the time frame?
What's the time frame?
What are we going back? A couple of years here? 5 years?
Kind of current, but a little bit a couple of years ago.
So within the last couple of years?
Yeah. Okay. And I just see it so evident everywhere. And also one of my cousins died of seizures when she was really young.
Right.
And she could have had cannabis oil, right? And it shouldn't be something that people have to feel like they're sneaking around to go get. And it should be available for people at a cost they can afford.
So you've been speaking out a little bit about this. So
it's just annoying. I just feel like, well, why not talk about it? It's kind of important.
And you have some interest in the medium of communicating with people.
Yeah, I guess so. I seem to be people seem to not have a problem approaching me. I feel like maybe I'm approachable or something. Right. I don't know.
So they want to talk to you about it, and you're willing to talk to them about it. And you've done some podcasts and some other stuff as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I started a podcast too, and that's been going all right. It's nice just to hear different perspectives about things.
Right. How do people find your podcast?
Seems to be going well.
No, how do they find it? If they're looking for it, how would they find it?
Oh, how do they find it physically on the internet? Yes. Yeah. Oh, it's on YouTube and Facebook, but mostly YouTube. Yeah, mostly YouTube right now.
So they punch your name in there?
The Consciousness Continuum.
The Consciousness
The
Continuum.
Consciousness Continuum is the name of it.
I like that. That's good. Because that's kind of what this is all about.
I don't know why I chose that, but that's what it is,
It's powerful.
Yeah, well, it's just,
Consciousness is, that's what life is.
It seems like it's an attack on the attention, kind of,
It's such a theme with the show, really. And even what I talked about to start with, I started about the nature of life on the planet. That's what I started the show about today. The nature of life on the planet. Well, what is life?
Could I see that lighter?
Life is...
Could I use it?
Awesome. Thank you. That. Life is but consciousness, isn't it? I mean, I guess there's some life that isn't conscious, and that's true. But life, in its evolution, is always attaining consciousness. And even on the cellular level, there's a consciousness there of recognizing danger and moving away from it, and recognizing sustenance and moving towards it. There's memory. There's things that's going on with single-celled organisms that are to do with consciousness. And then single-celled organisms, after 1 billion years or so, apparently, I should apologize to Auntie Barbie again, but I'm not apologizing for this, because these are my views, and swearing is one thing, but having views is another. And in the way it seems, with what I've looked into it myself, although I certainly wasn't there, for the first billion years or so on this planet, after life started to form because of the chemical reactions that happen because of the atomic matter of life or of this universe, where geological matter can become biomatter if the conditions are right, in the hot ocean vents and whatever. So life did start on this planet, and for about a billion years it was nothing but microbes of single-celled organisms. And then, because that's what happens after a billion years of trying all kinds of different things, but you're only a one single cell, they figured out multicellular organisms, and then life beyond it. But it's mostly about consciousness. It's about interpreting the world that you're in, from whatever, if you're a fish in the bottom of the ocean, and how you interpret the world around you, how you sense it, where your food is, where the danger is, all that stuff. It's all about consciousness. And now we evolve consciousness amongst human beings. Sorry, we talked last week. Sometimes you're just here to let me ramble.
No, yeah.
We evolved a consciousness with human beings, seemingly somewhat separate in some ways from the animal kingdom, although still attached and from that, for sure. But this consciousness that we've achieved here within our family units and within our societies that we've created, the structures of our world are all just about consciousness. And here is this attempt to prohibit cannabis, and that keeps it away from the sick people, that keeps it from being used by people who are struggling with addiction and dying because of it, that does all of these harmful, horrible things. And the only thing that is at the center of the whole thing is this cannabinoid called THC that alters consciousness. It's about altering your consciousness, this whole war on not just cannabis, but on these other things. Really, it's a war to protect financial interests. But the attack to do that is because this compound of this plant provides something that changes a person's consciousness, and that is what's deemed to be illegal. And the same with the psychedelics, where these natural psychedelic plants that have that reaction from beings, from animals and humans, that results in resetting of the brain in ways that help out with creatures that have experienced serious trauma, and helps with all kinds of different things. And that again is the subject of so much energy by the powers that be to prevent us from having access. And it's all about just consciousness. So yeah, the consciousness continuum is an extremely, extremely accurate overview of what this evolution of ours is. And we're at a very crucial stage of that consciousness continuum.
Seems like we're at a tipping point, kind of.
Yeah, for sure.
Like things are crazy, but also maybe, who knows? Who knows what could happen? Maybe good things could happen.
I hope they do. They kind of have to at this point. And my way of, my thing with good things is cannabis, but it's gone beyond that. It's certainly stretched to psilocybin, to the mushrooms that carry psilocybin, because of the value that I've seen in that for people. Mm-hmm. First-hand knowledge, or at least second-hand, because I've seen these people, I've gotten their reports. I also have had first-hand experience with mushrooms, especially lately as well. I feel it's helping me a lot. That's personal experience. It's just one person's opinion, but there's a whole bunch of people that have that opinion. Now there's scientific research about it. There's all sorts of graphs and numbers and stats and studies and things. It really helps people. And to have our governments, be they like in free democratic societies with public servants, or be they in dictatorships with tyrants and things like that, it is horribly wrong to be withholding these things from people that are suffering and struggling seriously. Mm-hmm. It really
Definitely.
is. So, and I think that that's going to be a thing coming up, like you say. I think we are kind of at a tipping point right now, although, oh man, I'll tell you, free conversation here. I was going to say I can't see any way that they could stop the eventual access to these substances for people. But at the same time, we're living in a world where we're finding out just how much control governments can have over people, and just how much we can be shut down from whatever they decide to shut us down from. So yeah, it's not a done deal that we're going to win this at all.
But also, like, you know, people have power when they gather together as well, and who knows?
That's why we blog. That's why we do the show.
Yeah.
We need more people to gather together with us in our ideas of consciousness about what's right and wrong.
Yeah, and even just down to the food we eat and the right to grow our own food and medicine, you know, and not be penalized for it or even questioned about it. Just something that maybe you're even encouraged to do it, you know? Have a right relationship with the plant and all sorts of things. But it's just really hard to access real information.
You know, in a world where it wasn't upside down, you would think that governments, if they were public servants, would be finding all the things that help people and helping people use those things properly.
Yeah, for sure.
They don't seem to be doing that, especially when we're here making sure that they know loud and clear cannabis is helping people here. Support us, you know, encourage us, help us, you know, to help people.
Wouldn't that be great? That would be wonderful.
It would
ideally.
It's. I kind of thought we were there. It's been. Wow. In 3 days, it will be a year and a half since we opened this space here as a store for people to get low barrier access to cannabis and to run our substitution program. A year and a half. I remember when we did that, we did it because the city had passed a motion to support us unanimously, or to support what we were doing in low barrier access. We felt that we had that support. We had been already for 3.5 years doing our thing at Vandu, and we had great support in the neighborhood. I personally had been here, well, at that time, I guess 15 years prior, with another store selling cannabis and providing access 1 block over. So when we opened our store 18 months ago in 3 days, I was so excited. I was really excited. Like we had accomplished what we were going to, what we needed.
Yeah.
We were going to get our license from the city. They said, just move into the store. We'll assess what you're doing. If what you're doing is meeting the needs of the community in reasonable ways that we agree with, we will license you. And we did a very productive meeting. That was going to happen. And here we are, a year and a half later, out in an RV for 14 months, still waiting for approval from a sophisticated team of professionals being paid to work diligently on our file to support us and give us a license to help us help people.
Oh dear.
That's insane. It would take, I've said it repeatedly, it would take a high school student less than a week to review that application and understand clearly that what we're doing needs to be supported and all the barriers removed. Professor Zachary Walsh, not a grade 12 student, he's not a high school student, he's Professor Zachary Walsh, the foremost expert in cannabis as a replacement for other drugs, wrote us a letter stating clearly that our program should have no barriers placed in front of it, no interference, only support. Dr. M.J. Malloy, the foremost expert for sure, as a professor at UBC with respect to cannabinoids and their use for people in all sorts of different situations. He's the cannabis professor. I mean, if you're a government or a high school student and you want to know, hey, is this something that's good or bad? You might go to him, because he's the professor that, between him and Zachary Walsh, if you were doing your due diligence, Health Canada, you're a team of people. Has it ever come across your desk to maybe pick up the phone and talk to Mr. Zachary Walsh or Dr. Malloy? In fact, we submitted letters to Health Canada from those people stating these things. So,
right.
It's frustrating, it's maddening.
Matter,
it's
right? It's a time-sensitive matter.
I'm trying to be lighthearted about it. I'm not. I'm angry. I don't want to be angry because I've seen myself on the show, little bits that I've watched after doing a show, where I'm angry like this, and I don't think it's very attractive. I don't think it's something people probably would want to see. And I think it's important that people listen to what we have to say about these issues. They're so important. They're so important enough for me to be angry about. But anger doesn't come across well in the visual medium as far as I can tell. And so I try to keep it light and talk about it with a smile on my face as best I can. But these are extremely serious issues. These are people's lives. And these are people that didn't deserve what happened to them in the first place to end up down here for the most part. If you got to know many of them, you would come to realize that they could be your sons, daughters, brothers, sisters, moms, dads. Like, you know, they're just everybody, anybody that had something bad happen to them. Trauma happened in their life. They wound up down here like this, and here we are. And we want to help these people. And we know how to help these people. But we're being hampered in our abilities to help these people by a government that is supposed to be helping us help people. That's what they're there for. That's what we pay them for, is to help people.
Is that what it is?
That's what I think it is. That's what I've always felt. That, you know, that what I want my government to do is to help people when they need help. And if I need help, help me. But, you know, I haven't needed much help in my life from government. You know, I've been on the good side of things, on the lucky side of things. But if I had been on the other side, that's what I would want government to do. And on my behalf, with the money that I give them from my taxes for all my years of working in the world, yeah, that's what I want them to do. I want them to make sure the roads are safe, and I want to make sure my kids are educated. But I want to make sure that the people that are suffering, that have really had troubles in their life, that they get the help that they need. And it doesn't help us in any way as a society not to help them.
It actually benefits
Big
everyone,
time.
right?
Right.
Because then we have another competent, smart,
Well, not
happy...
quite everyone. That's the point. That's the thing.
Maybe
There's a tiny percentage that are making money off the backs of the poor and the downtrodden and the sick.
It's a shame.
It is a real shame. It needs to be stopped. We need to stop doing that as a society, to stop allowing for that to happen. And we're now, you know, over many decades of government policy with weed prohibition, with cannabis prohibition as their cornerstone, been going down a road where more and more people are being harmed every day because of these government policies. So yeah, the evil fuckers of... I don't even apologize for that one, because it's so serious. People are dying, and they're good people in many cases. And in all cases, they're good people. No matter what happened, they were all born a good baby. And if they went bad in their life, it wasn't their fault, you know?
It's different when there's, like, coercion, you know? And, like, if you want to talk about, I don't know, making things attractive for kids or worrying about kids, right? In regards to cannabis, well, you know, let's have full transparency and look at what they're doing with alcohol, for example.
Yeah.
And you can go on and on and on. It goes on. But why is it so... Yeah, I don't know.
It doesn't make sense, Casey. It just makes money for a small group of people that really pull the strings around here.
Yep.
And, you know, and for most people, it's no big deal. They live their life. They smoke weed if they want. They figured out how not to get caught. They've got to hook up if that's what it is they want to do. Or you know, you learn how to navigate around the obstacles that are put there by the corporations that include our government. And it's no big deal. But for some people, it's a really big deal. And that's kind of what drives me. Is not that for ordinary people, it's an inconvenience. Sometimes it's more than that, you know. But it's for the people whose lives are really seriously affected by these policies that are built up on the idea that it's okay for public servants or a government of any type to prohibit access to a plant without any evidence that plant is killing people or harming people in significant ways. And even if it was harming people and killing people in significant ways, you would never prohibit it. The most dangerous things are the ones that really need regulations that keep it available in regulated ways so that people don't go to the unregulated available sources and get the dangerous stuff in even more dangerous ways. Prohibition is not the answer to even the dangerous stuff that's out there. But for the people that are really suffering and have really been harmed by prohibition, that's what this fight is about, and that's why we won't stop. And yeah, low barrier access to cannabis. Thanks a lot for coming on the show, Casey. I appreciate that a lot. We'll do this frequently, I think, over the next while, because, like I say, I kind of like your energy, and it gives me a chance to rant. And anybody that'll sit there and let me rant...
Yeah, I just like to sit and listen to you sometimes.
So, well, and I like to hear what you have to say, too. And I like your blog. You can check that out on The Consciousness
The
Continuum?
Consciousness Continuum on YouTube. That's what it
YouTube.
is at the moment.
Yeah, check it out and see
Yeah.
what's going on, see what we're talking about. And we're going to go out and do a little update on the CSP and what's going on there. The CSP, the Cannabis Substitution Program, as we've talked briefly about on this show and about on every show, continues to do what it can to get the government support that it needs to be able to run the program properly and really meet the needs of the community here, but the other communities across Canada that are also struggling with similar problems. This is not just a Canada-wide problem, it's a global problem. It's certainly a North American problem that is resulting in such pain and hardship for so many people that finally it's getting some of the attention that it needs, although it gets far less attention than some other things in our world, and that's by design, as it turns out, unfortunately. And that's due to corruption, which is what we're finding out. But what we've been doing here in our attempt to address this crisis of overdose deaths that has taken so many lives was the solution of cannabis in the form of high-dose edibles. There are many solutions to this issue and this problem, and probably none of them are the one solution, although any of those solutions could be the one solution for any individual. But there are several ways that this problem needs to be attacked. One of them is with cannabis, and a profound one is cannabis. Seeing as how it's a drug that's involved, and it's an inability to stop the use of that drug due to a withdrawal event that happens when you try to stop using that drug, it has become a serious, serious issue for people trying to quit in an environment where they can't get it legally. They must get it somehow to avoid going through withdrawal. And so they do get it from sources that risk their lives. That's why we're having deaths the way that we are. So cannabis needs to be part of the solution. We recognized that earlier. Myself, having been involved with the herb school back in the day, back in the early 2000s, right here at Main and Hastings, unbeknownst to us at the time, cannabis was an answer to people that were trying to get through withdrawal in the form of our brownies and cakes. So when the overdose crisis hit again, in 2015, it was clear to me that cannabis high-dose edibles should be promoted as a solution for people to get through withdrawal, as I had by that time come to know many, many dozens of people that would tell me exactly what Mr. Sikora told us here earlier. Cannabis saved their life. So I went to the advocates for the hard drug users in this city, the Vandu organization, and got unanimous support to try to get support from the city to provide a program of providing cannabis high-dose edibles to people free of charge to help them get off of opioids. The city of Vancouver listened to what I had to say, but would not support me in that. The VPD listened to what I had to say as I presented to their board the same ideas. But they, shook my hand and thanked me for my efforts. And we weren't about to not do it. In fact, we met with the city. And eventually, because the city did pass a motion 2.5 years after I presented the program to them, and after we'd been running the program successfully, and after Dr. M.J. Malloy had written several papers on the efficacy of what we were doing, the city passed a motion unanimously to support low barrier access, and that's when we moved into this space and started doing it from the store that we thought we'd get a license from. But that didn't happen, and here we are now, 14 plus months waiting for Health Canada to give us the license that the city needs to be able to allow us to go back into the store. But in the meantime, can't stop doing our program. And we continue from an RV out front, waiting for Health Canada. The program has expanded. Within 6 months, a Vandu board member took it to Victoria and got them over there to start handing out edibles to people that were supported by their program called Solid, advocacy group for hard drug users. We had Chris Backer in Halifax a couple years ago now, going on 2 years, start up a program in Halifax that mimics what we did here in Vancouver at Vandu, doing wonderful work there, helping people once a week, giving out a couple hundred care packs. Mary McCarty was our head baker here in Vancouver for quite a while, and she ended up having to go back to London, Ontario for family members and started a cannabis substitution program there. It's been running successfully ever since. Now being taken over by William Hicks and other people there. I'll get to know them and give you proper names at some point, but there is a Cannabis Substitution Project chapter in London, Ontario that's doing fine work there. Once again, a couple 100+ care packs once a week. And on it goes. Jason Lafassi's been doing good work along these lines in Sudbury, and there's more starting up. And it will continue. And hopefully one of these days we get a license from Health Canada to allow this to be a thing that is supported by governments, and then it can properly help people. And that's what I know, and that's where we are. And let's go outside and meet the crew and do a brief update on what's going on out there. It's a dark and stormy night in Vancouver. We're 1 block away from Main and Hastings, probably the #1 drug exchange area in North America. That's what they say sometimes. I don't know. I do know there's a lot of people standing in alleys and up against poles and in doorways that are offering all kinds of substances to people that are what they're looking for. And as long as there's a bunch of people that are looking for substances, there will be people there providing them. That's a law that wasn't made by man, but man has to follow whether they like it or not. Supply and demand is a real law, and there is a huge demand for these opioids and other street drugs because of the suffering of human beings and what happens when people are looking for relief from that. And because of an overprescribing of opioids that's been happening for quite a while here in North America, the synthesized drug network of Big Pharma that's been providing through pharmacies and doctors huge amounts of these drugs that get people to the point where they can't get off them without going through withdrawal. And they end up down here in places like this all across Canada and North America and other places around the world. They're in the hunt for opioids. And as long as they're on the hunt for opioids, there will be people here providing them. That's the way it works. No matter how big the penalties are, no matter how much enforcement, there is no way to stop supply and demand. If there's a huge demand, there will be a supply. Doesn't matter how much money you spend, doesn't matter how many guns you have, the supply side will have more guns and they'll have more money and they'll do what it takes. And that's been proven in Mexico and it's been proven throughout history. Supply and demand is a real law that man cannot violate. And because they've created such a huge demand, and because there is such a huge demand, there is a supply. And we just want to be part of that in a way that doesn't hurt people the way that this supply hurts people. This supply of keeping people on street drugs is killing people. It was killing people before the drug supply was tainted with fentanyl, a much, much more potent opioid that kills people so quickly when it's in the drugs that they're buying and they don't know it's there. But even prior to that, these drugs are killing people. Pharmaceutical drugs are killing people. Commercial tobacco is killing people. Alcohol is killing people. There's an answer to those things. There needs to be an availability of cannabis as an option to those things. And that's what's been suppressed for all this time. That's what we're fighting against. There needs to be easy access, low barrier access, low cost and no cost cannabis available to anybody that needs it and wants it without any government interference, with a whole lot of government support. That's what needs to happen here. Here's our little RV, the Hippie Dippy wagon, the Ganja Mobile, the Healing Wave van, Jen Nelson and the crew. Merry Christmas. We got Santa Claus.
The real Santa
This
Claus.
is where Santa hangs out, as you probably knew that
this
he would.
represents my blurman, black and white.
I see. All right, we got that there. George is the happy little elf. It's a myth that elves are small. Santa is small. The elves are big. That's why Santa created the myth that Santa was big and the elves were small, because Santa was a little bit concerned about his height, a little insecure. You know how it goes. And so that's how we have this myth about Santa being a big guy. Santa's a little guy. He's sitting right there, and the elf is pretty big. So there you go. Now you know. Truth, hope, and change is what we advertise on this show. There's a little bit of truth. And, you know, that's the change that we needed. Santa's a little guy, and he hangs out here almost on a daily basis, helping people get off opioids and saving their lives. Of course he does. What else would he do with his spare time? Anyway, that's what's going on here, gang.
Been a good day.
Been a good day?
That's all right.
I'll come and sit with you in just a minute. We're going to go knock on the back door and see what happens. I think it's really cool.
How we doing, folks?
Oh, look. We were right. It is the real Santa.
Yes, it is. How we doing, folks?
Doing good.
There we go.
All right. Lights, camera, action.
Okay.
What happens when you knock on this door? For anybody who hasn't watched the show before.
Well, this is we have a 420 milligram edible program for people on the members list.
So as an edible program, you mean they get 420 milligrams of edibles?
420 milligrams of edibles every 4 days.
Every 4 days, for free,
For free.
if they're part of the program.
If they're on the list.
And we got a couple hundred people on the list.
I got 266 on the list right now that I take care of.
Yeah.
On my waiting list, I have 260 people.
And we don't put more people on the waiting list because,
No.
you know, until we can get,
If we
you know,
had some more donors, if we
and
had
a
some more
bigger
donors,
facility.
yes.
a license from Health Canada,
But right now, we're doing the best we can. with
We
what
are.
got, and I have.
and that's pretty damn good.
And this is what I have today.
So when you knock on the back door, Santa Claus answers,
Santa
and you
Claus-
get to choose your presents.
See, Santa Claus does two things. He does the North Pole and he does edibles.
Well,
for
he's
people
only at the
down
North
here.
Pole for a short period of time.
Yes.
We know that.
Okay, we have some cookies here. Some
Why the heck
ginger-
would he stay up there? It's cold up there.
Well,
Anyway,
that's why he's down here.
of course.
We have some cookies from Miss Watermelon,
Ah, very good.
Mary Jean Dunstan. Very nice cookies. We have some hard candies that were lollipops, but they're turned into hard candy
Great.
from Colleen.
Very nice.
And we have some 1-to-1 snake oil here.
Great.
It's got 800 milligrams. We looked it up.
I
It's
see.
got 400 milligrams of honey oil. And
So if somebody, you know, when it's their turn to get 420 milligrams, they can come and get a container of snake oil. We don't like give them half a container of snake oil. That time they get 800 milligrams. It's just how it works out.
You remember all we had? We only got this left.
Oh, is that right,
Right
eh?
in the tray, people see it, they ask what it is, and they love it.
Yeah, it really helps
Okay, I
people.
got some pills here. These are 50 milligram THC pills.
That's from
Very
Dirty Dave?
Very popular from Dirty Dave.
Yeah,
Yeah,
love-
very
love Dirty
popular.
Dave.
I have some brownies here from Roberta.
Yeah.
80 milligram brownies. She does a great job. Brownies are
she's
great.
been wonderful.
People love the brownies,
Yeah,
right?
Good work, Roberta.
And I have some cookies here. These are 75 milligram cookies from Damien.
Damien's been doing
Yeah,
great work
they're
for us for
very
a long
nice.
time as well.
Nice and soft chocolate chips.
Yeah, what's the milligrams on those? I know
75 milligrams.
75. Yeah, good.
Yes.
Right.
And people love them. I got some cubes here from Sean, right? And these are 40 milligram cubes. I have cubes.
Those are
you know-
from Green Wilderness, those ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have some that are 100. This makes 120 milligrams.
I
So
see.
if they take 300, I can give them one of this.
Yeah.
I also got them in 200. They're popular in 200,
Right.
right? And I have some of these ones right here.
The Gorilla
I have
Ganja.
Gorilla Ganja. Yeah, it's very.
Fantastic
Yeah.
group that's been helping us for so long.
It's been great. Yeah.
Wonderful job.
Yeah. It's a
Still
great
have some
job.
topicals, I would imagine.
What do I
Numerous
got?
things.
I even give out some joints.
Everybody
People
gets a
love-
joint.
Yes, they do. And they
Everybody
always-
gets a joint.
If they don't get one, and I forget because I got lots of people coming, they just
They
come
ask
back to
you.
the door and knock on the door. What else do I have? I have some of these pills.
More
These-
caps. Yeah, the
these
caps are really important for
These
people.
are Keith pills. These are 50 milligram Keith pills made here. George back here made some pills.
Right.
He's pretty good at it. So, yeah.
Very good. Well, thanks, Andrew. I mean, Santa.
No problem. I'm here. That's what we're here for.
Keep up the good work.
I will keep up the good work. I ain't going nowhere.
Right. Say hello to Mrs. Claus.
I will do. Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Oh, the comfortable confines of the Healing Wave van. How are you? The same old crew.
It's good.
Who you calling old?
We're a family.
Yeah, exactly. Who am I calling
We're
old?
a family. We've come so close together. We're a family.
Yeah, eh?
You'll have to work
There's no
together.
question. I spend more time with you people than anybody else in my life. That's for sure.
Well,
For the last 5 years, anyway.
yeah.
Coming up, we got.
There we go.
Well, we got.
Got a customer.
Okay, gotta help
Yeah, it's
people.
been a good day.
It's been a good day.
Despite the rain and the dry weather, it's been a good day.
George is still rolling, and you're still dispensing.
I'm
Jen is
still
still helping people get
I've done
smiles
20
on their faces all
I've
day.
done 25 people. I've had 25 people for
So far
420
today.
milligrams today.
Awesome.
That's great. Everybody's working it.
Yeah,
Working the program.
it's very rewarding being here. We
Sure it is.
we like that we're able to help people. We just want the government to help us help people. You know, we have some faith that can happen. We have some hope anyway, and I hope that you can help us. And if you haven't made that phone call or sent that email or written that letter, please do on our behalf. This is what needs to happen, not just here on the downtown east side for the people that we're helping, but in every community across Canada. There needs to be a community cannabis store, a store that you can walk into and get low cost or no cost cannabis at reasonable prices for all the things that you need, that makes some sense, that isn't driven to being high prices because of greed and government corruption. And so that's what's got to happen, and this is the way to do it, is to get licensed for low barrier access community cannabis stores. And you know, please help us do that. There's a lot of people counting on us. There's a lot of people that will be helped when that is able to happen. In the meantime, if you're a donator, and if you want to be, I mean, for those that have donated, thank you so much. That's what makes these programs run. Chris in Halifax, William and his crew in London, Mary, where she's going to be in Winnipeg. Get a hold of Mary in Winnipeg if you can. She's on Facebook. If you're in Winnipeg and you want to help her, she's going to need some donators and some people to give her support there as well. And thank you to all the people that have done that. You really make it work.
Canadian Lumber that donates to all
And
the
Canadian
CSPs.
Lumber, they've been great. They were sending us some papers, and somehow they got jammed up in the delivery system. It looks like they've been sent back there now. But yeah, they've stepped up to the plate for you know, Halifax and for London as well.
Yeah.
And good on them for doing that. And people need papers. My God, you know, not everybody has a pipe.
Joints that we go through here, like that's,
People need papers.
That's a huge help.
And, you know, thanks to Pot TV for giving me this platform. The other shows on Pot TV, as I mentioned, there's the 420 Lifestyle Show, Mondays at 420. There's BC Bud Gal Thursdays at 10 a.m. Johnny B with How's It Growing Fridays. Great to watch how to grow weed. In fact, start thinking about that. This is the time to start thinking about that. Early February, you want to be ready to start putting seeds in the ground and get it going. For some people anyway, and then you can have a really big plant by the end of summer. And in a world where you're only allowed 4 plants, you want to have big plants. Have 10 big plants. Have as many big plants as you're able to have big plants, because that's a great thing to do. And thanks to you for watching. I hope that you have a great week ahead, and all things are good for you. I hope that you're getting into the Christmas spirit of giving and helping, and the joy of Christmas fills your heart. I know it's tough for some people, but for those people that have struggled in their life, that get depressed about it, maybe you can think about it as just an excuse to maybe get your mind off of things that are more troubling, and to try to help somebody out that needs a hand, and to put the joy of giving into you with some kind words and some good deeds and on all those things. Any excuse to be like that is a good excuse. I think all the time you should be kind to yourself and kind to everybody else.
Doesn't always require money.
Oh, not at all. Giving doesn't always require money. It's just the thought that you want to help somebody. Even if you communicate to somebody that you care about them and you'd like to help them, and you offer them a little bit of advice or anything like that, that is all giving and all very helpful. And that's the spirit in which we should all live all the time. I'm here to try to help you. If you come to me, meet me on the sidewalk, and something's happened and you're in trouble or in some form, I'll be happy if I can help you. That'll make my day if I can help somebody in a way like that. And if we all felt like that all the time and tried to make each other's day all day long and make each other's journey as easy as we could, I think it'd be a much better place. I highly recommend that you do it. And I also highly recommend that as you go about your life, you have as much fun as you can personally, because that's the best way to live life.